So, Olivia, I want to say thank you so much for being here today. The reason why I wanted to speak with you is, you shared some things that really resonated with me. Being a single mom, getting into real estate, transitioning from corporate to being an entrepreneur and running your own business. There are so many people who are in your same situation. And a lot of times it can feel like hopeless. You don't know what to do. You don't know where to go. You don't know if you can actually make it. And I'm such a huge believer that if anyone who looks like you has done it before, you can do it too. Some
Yeah.
people just need to hear your story so that they can see there's hope. And so I really appreciate you being willing to come on and talk to me today. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So why don't we just start off just by telling me a little bit of your journey? So I know that you were in corporate America. I know you were a project manager. Uh, Briefly, just tell me why you decided real estate.
Um, okay. Yeah. And I recently retired from corporate America 6 months ago. So
Nice.
yes, something I'm very excited to kind of take that leap of faith. Um, I transitioned into real estate, and this is going to be a funny story. But anyone who has been in corporate America, you kind of know everyone's trying to climb that ladder,
Yeah.
right? You have
Yes.
people that are that you're working on projects with, and then you have some people that are, competing to be on certain things.
Hmm.
So I had gotten in the competitive realm in corporate real estate, and I was on that next step on the ladder when that step was kind of taken from me a little bit
Okay. Got it. Got it. Okay.
by a colleague. And you know
Mm,
that's fine. If you like it, I love it. If you need it more, then what's for me is for me, and it's not going to stop me.
okay.
So that caused me to pivot and see what other opportunities I had. And it's interesting because I was working in real estate in corporate America. I was
Oh,
working in global real estate. So we
global
were
real
kind of
estate.
helping
Okay.
the facilities and lease management and things like that.
Okay.
Um, so my natural pivot was, if I can do real estate in corporate, then I can do real estate for everyday people. Right,
Hmm.
exactly. And the things that I was learning, I was managing billion-dollar, million-dollar projects. Why can't I help people like me, people in my community, small families, women, try to create that wealth and build that wealth for themselves?
Yeah.
So it kind of started on let me break out of this box, but it geared me into what my passion actually is.
Well, a lot of people struggle to like translate their corporate background into real estate. It's so interesting that you were working real estate in your corporate job. So how did that relate to what you were doing in corporate to actually being a realtor? How did that help you become a better realtor?
So I will say, like I said before, I loved what I did as a project manager. I still love managing projects, and I think it relates because I think in processes, right? Like I think, okay, if we're trying to get to point A to point B, what's the most efficient way to do that?
Makes sense.
So I'm used to dealing with hiccups. I'm used to dealing with obstacles. I negotiate on a daily basis. I have negotiated with the government on
Um,
some of the projects that I worked on. So there's no one that really intimidates me. You can be the CEO, you can be the, government official. I don't mind having a conversation. We're all people at the end of the day.
Love that. Love that. So when you become a real estate agent, how did you transition? Because coming from corporate to becoming an entrepreneur, that's a big change. How did you navigate that for yourself?
It was definitely a leap of faith. And I will tell
Okay.
you, it is still a leap of faith because, as an entrepreneur, one day you will have $80,000 in your bank account, and then the next day you'll have eight
Yes.
in your bank account.
Yeah.
So transitioning was really just preparing. There was an opportunity that came along for me to leave the company that I was with. And, I had been juggling real estate and corporate America. I had been the glorified person that was just busy 24 hours. I'm
Mm,
in my car on a conference call, I'm writing contracts, I'm in traffic, I'm kind of doing everything.
Right.
So taking a step back and saying, I want to build my business. I want to own my time. I
Hmm.
want to create wealth for my children. You know, I have a son and a daughter, and I want them to see that. Um, so the transition is scary, right? Because it's still a transition.
Hmm.
Um, but making sure that I have people around me that provide positive insights, making sure that I have someone that I am accountable to, right? Because
Yes.
just because you leave that 9 to 5 doesn't mean, all right, I'm going to lay in bed all day and watch movies and scroll TikTok. Like, no, now it's if I don't put in the work, I don't get the paycheck.
You don't get a paycheck. Right.
Yeah, corporate America, you can sit at your desk all day, you're still getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. So that has been real. And it has been motivating because there is no glass ceiling, right? If
That's
I
right.
go hard 5 days out of the week, then guess what? I'm going to see that directly reflected in the relationships that I build. It's not always about money, but it's about, you know, how your life flourishes around you as well. So
Of
it
course.
has been, it's definitely a leap of faith. It's not easy at all. You have to believe in your abilities, what you can do, right?
Hmm.
Um, in order to move forward. But I'm loving it. I'm here for the excitement.
Is there any affirmation you say to yourself where you kind of speak that faith into yourself and like that strength into yourself? Is there anything that you say? Because personally, for me, you may know this, I want it more than I fear it. Because there are so many things that scare me from public speaking to like the success of my business. Like I will be honest, I'm afraid of it growing because what does that mean, right? And
Yeah.
so, but I want the success more than I fear what that extra work might mean for me. So that's kind of
Yeah.
how I speak to myself. Is there anything that you say to yourself?
I love that question. So there are a few. Over the years, I've always said everything is always working out for me. Um, if you know me, if you've been in my life, you've heard me say it, you've heard me repeat those affirmations. I have it on a sticky note. But most recently, it has been two. And I'm not sure if I can say the last one, but I'm
You
still
can
going to
say
say it.
everything. This is you say whatever comes out.
So one is the universe is not on a budget, right? So ask for more. Like, why am I just asking for one closing a month, five closing a month? The universe is not on a budget. Ask for the most that you can get, that you can handle.
Yeah, yeah.
And then that falls in line to think bigger, bitch. Think
Okay.
bigger. Why are you putting yourself in a box? Like, think bigger.
You know, you know what that means to me. It's, I just came back from Kenya, and Steve Harvey shared something years ago, and he was like, "Hey, you guys are traveling, and you think that's good. Think bigger. Next time you take a trip, buy a first class ticket. See how that feels.
Mm,
See what it's like traveling at that level." And after
yeah,
doing that, now when I travel, I think bigger. I'm like, I don't just want to take a flight. I want the first class flight. I want to be in that
right.
first class lounge. I want to have first class accommodations. And so when I think bigger, it also makes me say, okay, so what do I need to do to create the finances so I can do that?
Correct.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Love
Yep.
that.
I think sometimes we put our own limitations because
We
we're
do.
just so grateful to, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to Kenya. I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah.
But, you know, scale your life. That's what I'm learning to do.
Absolutely. And you mentioned something earlier. You were saying, like, if in corporate America you get paid, if you need to take some time off, being an entrepreneur, being a real estate agent, if you don't get up and put in the work, you don't get paid. And, I know you share with me that you're a single mom. So it falls on you. If you don't do the things, then you're not able to take care of your son, your daughter, and yourself the way that you want to.
Yeah. Yep.
What were some of the first boundaries that you had to learn to set up in your life and in your business, being a single mom so that you could have success here?
Mm. What was the first boundary?
Hmm.
Um, as a full-time entrepreneur, this may sound very basic, but the first boundary for me was limiting my time on social media.
Listen, that's not based. I have an issue with that myself.
Yeah, yeah. Limiting my time on social media and kind of gamifying my schedule, right? Becoming more disciplined in my schedule. So I wake up in the morning, I'm at the gym by 5:30. I'm in the gym from 5:30 to 7:30 because I do two 45-minute workouts, then I'm in the spa.
Okay.
After that, I jump on my morning mindset calls. I jump on your calls. I jump on a few role play calls.
Okay.
And that takes me into actively getting in the mindset of I'm going to be dialing today, right? I'm going to be making meaningful connections today. So I role play until 9 o'clock. And then after that, I'm on the phones. And so gamifying it, meaning, all right, I did for a 45-minute block of concentrated work. I'm going to do 15 minutes of social media, or I'm going to do, 15 minutes of going outside and walking around the block. Whatever I need at that time, I give myself that so I can go back in and focus. So,
I actually like that, and I haven't heard someone say gamifying their schedule before. I get it though. It's almost like your mini reward for doing the things that you know you need to do. And it's hard to spend 3 hours straight doing lead gen. So giving yourself that 15 minutes, setting something like I keep the thing on my desk, a little timer for 15 minutes to hop on Instagram and hit all my replies and post my stories. But when that 15 minutes is up, time blocking that to get back on the phone to make more calls. I love that.
yeah, and it works because I think, we're addicted to dopamine. I'll just say, we love
Yes,
our
we
likes,
are.
we love our
Yeah.
hits. So, just giving myself a little dopamine push throughout the day makes it manageable.
So what about those days after your workout and you come home, you do your role play, but you're not really feeling motivated and inspired to get on the phone and do your lead gen? How do you talk to yourself? Because it has to happen. Like you said, you put in those 5 days a week of doing the work. There is no ceiling. You can make all the money you want to make. So how do you keep yourself inspired to do the work day in and day out?
So this is something that I learned recently. um, every day doesn't have to be a go, you're going hard, you're giving 100% every single day.
Yeah.
Just, I relate it to the gym. I'm not going to the gym every single day and, bench pressing 100 or 200 or whatever the case may be, right? Some days you're stretching, some days you're doing yoga, some days you're working
Yeah.
on core,
Hmm.
right? So I'm not going to burn myself out in business either. So some days instead of placing calls for 3 hours, I'm writing, the notes, I'm returning emails, I'm doing something that is not as intense to, my nervous system that day. Maybe I'm stressed out or whatever the case may be. So giving myself the freedom to still be productive, but not push myself all the way to the limit if I know I'm just not there. Right. But
Right.
that's not giving myself an out to not do anything. So
That makes a lot of sense to me. So I have a lot of calls throughout the week with people in different stages of their careers, and there are a lot of dual career agents that are working full time, dabbling in real estate part time, and want to become full time realtors. And a lot of the women that I talk to are in similar situations. They're divorced, they have kids, and they are like, I don't know how to juggle that transition of leaving corporate to become an entrepreneur because it all falls on me. Like if I don't bring in income, it affects my children. Is there
yeah.
any advice you would give to like that single mom that sees real estate as a way out, but doesn't know how to navigate that journey?
Yeah, definitely. I can identify with a woman who, may feel overwhelmed because of all of the responsibilities and,
Yes.
may not see the light at the end of the tunnel or, how to navigate that transition. One, you do have to prepare, right? So have some money in savings, or if you don't have money in savings, have a plan, right? If you've been in corporate America for some time, you have the sphere of influence. You work with people that, know what you're doing. And if they don't know that you're in real estate, it's a good time to let them know, hey, I'm thinking about transitioning into real estate. So, send me your referrals. That way you're already pulling from the resources that you have. We all have resources, we all have skills, no matter what industry you came from.
Yeah.
So just identifying what those strengths are, and you got people that like you, so reach out to those people that want to see you win.
I love that. I love that. And we all have our own personal story too. And like from corporate to being an agent, for being a single mom, pushing through, having success. How does your personal story help you connect with clients? Like, do you talk to them? Do they get to know you? And do they want to work with you because of who you are?
I do think that my personality does a lot with my business. I am, you know, I'm not the most I'm not the social media person that you see,
Okay.
with the glitz and the glam and things of that nature. I'm
Right.
definitely a down to earth type of person. So having those real conversations, talk to me like I'm your friend, talk to me like I'm your favorite niece, like I'm your auntie if I'm older than you. I keep it very casual but professional, but I want to know what's going on in your life. I want to know what your fears are, because I do project management background. I do have risk management, right? So tell me what's bothering you so that we can mitigate those on the front end. Tell me, what obstacles might come around so I can come up with the plan A, B, C, or D. And I have made it to plan F before. So, you
Yes.
know, throw everything at me so that we can get you what you want. Because ultimately you want a house or you want to sell your home. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I love when the relationships kind of build to where I'm like your cousin, you're inviting me over to the barbecue. It really does fill my heart. And I think because of, my story, I do have, single mothers. I do have young families, right? Because it's
Yeah.
education
Yeah.
as well. You thought you couldn't buy a house, but guess what? We're buying a house this year. So
Well, what I loved about what you said is a lot of people don't understand, like when they get into real estate and we're like, you need a bio, you need a resume. They're like, well, I've never sold before. I just have this corporate background. You just really painted a picture of how you can take that project management and that risk management background and relate it to navigating real estate. Like, did someone help you with that, or did you just see the patterns in what you used to do and in real estate?
someone definitely helped me. So when I got into real estate, I did have a mentor.
Good.
Um, and I think it is a good idea if you're transitioning, to have a mentor, to have someone who has experience over the years to help you uncover what you naturally have. You know, Sometimes when you're transitioning, you can be intimidated by
Yes.
everyone who's been in the business for 30 years and 40 years. And, you know, you can wonder what you're bringing to the table with your experience.
Yeah.
But I think everyone, if you're choosing to get into real estate, you're choosing it for a reason. So you have the skills, right? You have the
That's right.
heart, you have the desire to make a difference, and just be confident in that.
Have you ever met with a real estate client and they chose you because you were able to use your background in corporate? Like, I love what you said about risk management. And isn't that what we do as agents? Our job is not just to get the offer in, it's to get them through the closing table. So it's like understanding the risks and things that can come up and putting processes in place so that doesn't
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, yeah, yep. Every realtor is a project manager. They could call themselves a project manager because you're trying to start something and you're trying to finish something, and you successfully want to make it to the finish line. So absolutely.
I hope the people who are listening hear what you're saying because when the seller says to you, like, why should I hire you, Olivia? Like, you could say, because I'm a project manager, not just a realtor. And here's what I do. These are the steps to make sure we get to the closing table because all you're concerned with is making sure you put a check in your pocket at the end of the day and there's minimal hassle. This is what I do to make sure that happens. Like, what a great way to pitch who you are and get them to see you as more than just a realtor.
And I will tell you, ignorance is kind of bliss as well, because when I started, I did not know about role play. I did not know about scripts. I
Yeah.
came with a smile and a knock at the door. Like, hey, you
Okay.
want to sell your house? And that's all I knew.
Right.
But it worked for me because it was genuine. It was authentic. I didn't know that, oh, well, you should, frame things in a certain way. I went off of conversation and creating a connection with that person. So I think a lot of times when you step into real estate and you see, these major professionals that have been in it for years, it may take a second to take that first step to go door knocking or to cold call. But I say jump in, and then learn what you need to do after. But
Absolutely.
get in motion.
I mean, that's exactly what I did. I didn't know scripting and objection handling, so I made calls and got hung up on. And when they hung up on me, I'm like, okay, how do I respond to that? And I would figure it out, and I would call back. And now I
Yeah.
know what to say. That's how I learned initially. Okay, so I know that I didn't prepare you for this. I'm putting you on the spot here. And the reason why I'm doing this, I really believe that there's someone that has been in your shoes. There's a single mom out there in corporate America who wants to make the leap into real estate, but they're scared and they feel stuck. They want to do it. They understand why they need to do it. They are stuck. If you were not talking to me, but you were talking directly to them based on your experience in doing it yourself and knowing what it's like, what would you say to them?
I would say take that leap. If you're thinking about it, then it's already in you to do it. If you have the desire, then your God, source energy, the universe is already telling you that you can fulfill it, because you wouldn't have the desire if it wasn't able, you wouldn't have the desire if the path wasn't there for you already. Um, and I have a daughter. She's at her third year at Fordham University. She lives in Manhattan, New York. She has zero student debt. Through real estate, I have been able to pay off her student loans to where she's living her life in Manhattan. She's living her dream, and when she graduates, she won't have to deal with, the student loans and the debt that we hear about in America that is crippling people. So real estate can really change your life. Real estate can change your children's life, to where you're making decisions based on what you want and not what you need.
Olivia, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Are you proud of your, do you ever just sit back and say, I did this on my own for my kids, and my daughter is going to graduate and I have debt? She's living her best life, and I'm able to do that for her on the strength of running my own business. That's a huge accomplishment. Do you give yourself credit for that?
I do. I do. I'm
Good.
still in the thick of it, but it's a wonderful feeling to be able to
Yeah.
see her success and know where it comes from, and know that she'll have those tools to pass it down to her children.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever heard me talk about this, and I don't share all the details because it's really my wife's story, and I really heard her feel comfortable sharing it. When my wife grew up in Phoenix, when it was time to go to college, she couldn't even afford to pay for the application fee. A friend of hers, their parents paid. She applied to one school, got into the one school, and that's where she went.
Mm,
Fast forward all these years, we're doing the same thing with our daughter, where she's going to graduate both of them and not have any debt. And we look
yeah,
at ourselves all the time and we're like, we did that. Like,
you did that.
and we're
Yeah,
doing it. And it's like, that's the whole thing that I think a lot of people don't understand. When that why to do that for your kids is big, you don't sit around and stay on TikTok. You don't make excuses. You do it because when you say yes to all the distractions, you're saying no to your kids and setting them up,
yes,
right?
yes. And they will feel it. They will feel it. When you can't
Yeah.
make that tuition payment
Yeah.
because, you're at the whatever distraction, yeah, they'll feel it. So
Yeah.
that's a great reminder. Keep pushing, you know.
Definitely keep pushing. Wow, I'm really proud of you. Now, you said you have a son as well.
I do.
Is
Yeah.
he in school as well?
He will be a senior next year. So we're starting all over again with him.
Rising senior. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, my daughter's a rising senior. I'm like two at the same time in school. Let's but I guess when your
It's
daughter graduates,
exciting.
he'll go in. But yeah, it's exciting, but
Yeah.
it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone who tells you it's not a lot, they have many blessings, but it's definitely a lot. But like you said, we're doing this for our children. We're doing this for our grandchildren,
Yeah.
so that they can have ease, and we can connect with them on a different level. So
Well, speaking of grandchildren, do you have any plans? Do you own investment property? Do you plan on creating a financial legacy through real estate for your family?
I do. I don't have any investment properties at the moment. And, in the same lane of think bigger, I was having a conversation with one of my girlfriends yesterday, and she's a commercial real estate agent, right?
Okay.
So, we keep each other accountable, we stay in contact throughout the week. And so she was saying her goal for us is to do investment properties next year. And then she
Okay.
said, after that, we're buying businesses. And I said, well, hold on, hold on. I got tuition, right? Like, give me a second. Let me catch my breath. And then I was like, no, think bigger. Why can't I have two kids in college, run my real estate business, and get investment properties? So, yeah,
Right.
it's on my book for 2026. I will get my first investment property.
I love it. I love it. And so I'm big on celebrating success. I can't wait to hear next year how you celebrate that when you buy that first property and you sign, like how you celebrate that. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's really
yeah.
awesome.
Thank you.
So you've been in real estate for how many years? I just want to make sure I have my numbers right.
4, going on 5. This will be my 5th year.
So at the end of 2025, what would it look like for you where you can say this was a successful year for me?
So I'll say it's a successful year for me because I'm continuing to help families.
Yeah.
I did transition from corporate America, and I took six months off. But during that time, I still had some listings. I'm still working with buyers. And so just continuing to build that bridge for other women or for families to be homeowners, that's always going to be a success for me. So just doing it on a bigger scale now.
I love that. And my final question for you is what can I do to help support you in that to make sure that at the end of this year you have the type of business you want?
Well, I'm the favorite Atlanta referral agent.
Okay.
So, anyone that is moving from anywhere, I love to relocate people. I've relocated people from California, from New York, from Maryland. So, just always keep me top of mind. And I think what you're doing now is great. I think the motivation that I have when I join your calls, the real talk, right?
Yeah.
Um, Not all of us can take to the sugarcoating, but if you give it to me real and you tell me what I need to do, I love that, and I'll take it and I'll run with it. So I love the platform that you have created. I'm inspired by you with your book, with the
Thank you.
opportunities that you're providing other people. So keep doing you.
I so appreciate that. And I love that you are coachable. So I'm going to end this call by giving you some advice. The
Yes,
agent in Atlanta that wants the referrals,
absolutely.
change your name on Zoom so that you put Atlanta and you put your phone number. So when you're on these calls, like my calls, you have agents from around the country, they need to know that you're in Atlanta so that when they have a client, they think about you.
Yeah, definitely,
Okay.
definitely.
And I will keep that
And
in mind too for Atlanta because I know people out there. So I will keep you in mind for referrals that I can send you as well.
thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Was this a good conversation? Like, I love to just have a conversation and talk. And I know that you shared some nuggets. I purposely asked you some questions because I know there are a lot of single moms that are looking to do what you've done and are doing. And I'm hoping that your answers will speak to them. I think what you said
Yeah,
really resonated.
yeah. It's not easy. Like I said before, anyone who makes it look easy, and I won't say that. Um, there are things in life that are simple but aren't easy,
Aren't easy.
right?
Hmm.
And I think when it comes to, being the person who has the responsibility, I think anyone will say, that wasn't your plan in life. If you were married, you never planned on getting divorced, right? Taking my daughter to college and moving her in, you never planned on doing those things alone, but it's such a blessing to be able to do it, to be able to be there. So I love everything about motherhood. I really do. And most people won't say that. Like COVID in my household, we had fun. We had a good time.
Nice.
I didn't want them to go back to school, you know? So taking motherhood seriously, taking our responsibilities seriously, and knowing that it's temporary.
Yeah.
And that's something I had to tell myself. This is a cycle. This is a 2-year cycle, a 3-year cycle, and then after that, I can enjoy my rewards.
Yes.
Kept me in a frame of mind that I can keep going. So,
And you can,
if
and
there's
you
anyone
are.
that's feeling burnt out or where's the light at the end of the tunnel, it's going. But if you stop, you won't ever make it there. So,
Mm. Keep going. Keep
yep,
keep pushing, you know, as I say.
exactly,
Keep pushing.
exactly.
Olivia, it was great talking with you, and I look forward to you continuing to show up for the calls and doing all the things and really growing your business. And more importantly, 2026, I hope you stay in the push ecosystem because I want to continue hearing about your success and when you buy that property, like when you do all the
Yeah,
things that you set out to do, because why not? What was the thing
yeah.
you said? Think bigger. What was it?
Think bigger, bitch.
Think bigger.
Think
I
bigger.
love it.
Yes.
Exactly, and you are, and you're doing it, and your daughter is watching, your son is watching, and I'm sure that they are inspired by you. So just know that they are paying attention, and the way you show up is how they're going to show up too.
Yes, yes, yes. Same to you as well.
Thank you. Thank you for your time today.